Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to do another show today. We're going to do just a daily sort of news show. I thought this might be a good idea. Um, Towards the summer, I'm obviously with transfer news and stuff. I'm going to be doing hopefully sort of every day or a few days, sort of an update just around transfers and what's going on. So as always, please leave a like, please subscribe if you are new. The video that I did on at the weekend about the squad and the transfers, that's sort of rocketed up and got a couple of thousand views, which was surprising. It was amazing. So thanks a lot for all your support. If you're new around here, which you might be, if you're a new subscriber, please make sure you also follow me on Twitter as well at ThreadmanChazza. I'll be doing lots of player profiles, analysis, talking about Ten Hag's system, how players might fit in, if we're linked to players, or if I think a player is suitable, or if we sign a player, or it looks like we're going to sign a player, if we're on the verge of signing a player, I'll be then doing some analysis on that player and how I think Ten Hag is going to use them. So there'll be lots of content during the summer. I've nearly finished my exams here. I've got a week of exams left at university, and then I'm finished for the summer, which would be really, really nice to get the content out to you. So thanks a lot for all your support. So if you get into the video then, there's just a few things to talk about. It's not going to be a long video, just a few things. So firstly, we'll just mention Pau Torres. Doing a bit of translation for the United Journal as always. So make sure you check out the United Journal. Very, very reliable for Man United news. They do not they don't get involved in any clickbait or any rubbish stories. They always report things as they are with the full information. So I would always, if you're looking for reliable news, and this is not me being biased, by the way, you might think this is not me being biased. The United Journal are fantastic. I work with them every day. Brilliant for news. Everyone works so hard behind the scenes. So that's what I recommend if you want to get your news reliably, because I know you probably realise there is a lot of false news that goes around, or not fully true news, perhaps. So the first thing is about Kalvin Phillips. I think Kalvin, if we start with Kalvin Phillips, we've got Pau Torres, and we've got a little bit on coaches and Mike Phelan, etc. So if we talk about Kalvin Phillips first, there's been interest from United. I think obviously with Leeds staying up, that obviously probably reduces the chance that Kalvin Phillips is going to go elsewhere. But there has certainly been interest from United for Kalvin Phillips. I think we saw an article a couple of weeks ago that we're working on a deal for Phillips, but I think personally Kalvin Phillips will be a very, very good player to bring in. You've got to remember, he's played as a number 6 in mostly a man-to-man system for Leeds, and he has looked reasonably comfortable. Obviously, there's more transition. There's going to be more attacking players coming at you. You're going to have to make quicker decisions. He's going to make some mistakes, but you've got to remember that system he's playing in. He's playing in a man-to-man system, which basically means if you're playing against a very, very good side, technically you're in huge trouble, because you're likely to lose those one-on-one battles. You've got players playing against you that might be faster, better technically, have got better first touch, they've got better dribbling than you, etc., etc. And you've got to remember, this is a Leeds side with a lot of players in that came up from the Championship still. They've still got a lot of that core with them, really. Obviously, they made a few signings, but they've still got a lot of players that did come up with them from the Championship, although there are some good players in there. So you've got to remember that Kalvin Phillips, I know he's had an injury, he's had a bit of an injury hit season, sort of this season, but Kalvin Phillips has looked reasonably comfortable for Leeds. And I think he would have been a good signing. However, because Leeds have stayed up, the price is obviously not going to be as low as we would have wanted. And also, just the news coming out today about loyalty, obviously, to Leeds fans and rivalry. I think Phillips looks. I've always said I'm not so sure that he would move himself from Leeds to Manchester United. So for me, Phillips is probably something that's off the table. Although I think he would have done well in a double pivot for Ten Hag in a 4-2-3-1, or in a 4-3-3 as a single 6. I think he can screen the back four well. He can also act as a number 8. He showed that in the Euros for England, with Declan Rice being the sitter and him going and influencing things. I think he might have got the assist for Sterling, one of Sterling's goals. I think at the Euros it was, and I think he contributed quite a lot during the Euros in terms of England's attacking play. So I think he can do both roles. But for me, I don't think he's going to come. I don't think it's maybe such a realistic move. And the Kalvin Phillips. So that's the first thing. The next thing is Pau Torres. So I did a bit of translation. As I said, I sort of sidetracked to talk about the United Journal. I do translation for the United Journal from some news articles, mostly in Spanish, translating them into English. And I translated an article, quite a short article, not so long back, a few hours ago, or I can't remember quite when it was, but very, very recently anyway. And Pau Torres is willing to leave Villarreal. Last season he wanted to stay. Obviously there was interest last season, but he wanted to stay because of the Villarreal in the Champions League. But obviously with Villarreal, I think they're in the Conference League. I think they're going to be in the Conference League next season. So Pau Torres is obviously looking at his options. Where can I go? I want to be playing in a more prestigious, maybe European competition. With all due respect to the Conference League, I don't think there's many people that obviously, if it's great to win a trophy. I'm sure Jose Mourinho and the Feyenoord manager, whoever that, I can't remember who that is, but I'm sure those two managers will really, really want to win that Conference League when they play. But I do think that it's not a competition that people really, you look at and think, I don't really want to be in that competition. I'd rather be in the Europa League, the Champions League, most ideally, obviously, the Champions League. So I did a bit of translation for them. It looks about 50 million euros the deal could be. It looks like United and Spurs are both interested. It looks like he would prefer United. So the bit of translation I did, he looks like he could prefer United, and there could be representatives going to England in the next few days for contract negotiations. And my friends at the United Journal have told me that this is quite a reliable source. So we could be seeing something on Pau Torres. Personally, I think we've got to respect Ten Hag and his credibility. If you look at the players he's brought in at Ajax, Tadic, Haller. Let's start with Tadic. When he left the Premier League, Tadic, he's going to Ajax, okay. You wouldn't have expected him to have that much of an impact for Ajax. He's playing at a false nine in the 2018-19 season, particularly. I've highlighted that season. That's the season, obviously, when they got to the Champions League semi-final. And I remember watching Tadic at false nine, and it was incredible watching him there compared to what he was like at Southampton. Sebastian Haller, obviously Ten Hag. If you didn't know, Ten Hag uses more of a target man now in Haller. When he was in the 2018-19 season, he was using more of a false nine. So it shows Ten Hag's tactical flexibility, and it also shows his eye for talent. These two players would probably not have been valued by us. If we were sitting and watching those two players at the time, we'd have thought, well, I wouldn't have expected him to pick those players perhaps, but you can see how much of an impact they've had for Ajax. So I think in terms of new signings, we're all obviously going to have our view on it, but I think we've got to respect this is Ten Hag's decision. He knows what he wants, and let's back what he wants and see whether that player does well in the new system. In terms of Torres, I've always said I'm not fully sure whether he's going to complement our other centre-backs. That's my only sort of concern. Rather than his actual ability, I think he's a really good player, really good on the ball. He is more of a passive defender, which could be a problem, especially if we've already got Maguire, Maguire can be aggressive, but because of his lack of pace, it doesn't allow us to be as aggressive as we maybe would like to with our whole defensive line, if that makes sense, in terms of our rest defence structure. So rest defence, the last line, where you've got different parts of the rest defence. But if we're talking about the last line of defence, teams set up in different ways, basically to stop the counter attack. And I think if our last line of rest defence is very, very high, I think Torres could also suffer because he isn't that fast himself. Lindelof is not as aggressive. Maguire is more aggressive than Lindelof, but he's got less pace. And obviously Varane is getting injured very, very frequently. Obviously he's got more pace and he's got aggression, but he's very, very injury prone. So for me, from the way I look at it, I'm not so sure Torres would complement the centre-backs we've got at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see if we do go for Torres. It'd be interesting to see what Ten Hag has in line for Torres, because, as I said, I will obviously back it, whatever Ten Hag does, and we'll see how it works out. But I think I'm not so sure about Torres in terms of the sort of complementing the other centre backs. But that's certainly a story to keep an eye on. And we are going to have our doubts about players. Of course we are. No player's ever going to be perfect. So that'll be my only worry. But he is a good player. Other than that, he is a good player. But I just think we need a more aggressive and quick centre back next to whoever we might partner him next to. I think that's something we miss. Some of a dominant centre back. I think we're missing that. A leader in that back four. Is Pau Torres that? I'm not so sure, but we'll see. We'll see. So that's the second piece of news. The third piece of news I wanted to bring you was about the coaching staff. So obviously we've obviously got Mike Phelan. He's not going to be part of Ten Hag's sort of backroom staff. We've seen a report saying, I think this was from Chris Wheeler, who works for the Daily Mail. Mike Phelan and Ralph Rangnick's backroom staff will leave the Man United coaching team as part of a reshuffle. So Mike Phelan is expected to go. The three men brought in, Chris Armas, Ewan Sharp, and psychologist Sasha Lentz will also leave. So, and also, obviously, we're going to have Mitchell van der Gaag, Ten Hag's current assistant at Ajax. We're going to have Steve McLaren and another first-team coach for the looks of it. So I'm happy to see this sort of reshuffle. I think we can all agree that Ralph Rangnick's managerial time has been a really, really poor on the pitch in terms of results. Whether you can attribute a lot of that to the players, I would say so. However, also, we have to agree, if Antonio Conte had taken over from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Man United would probably be in the top four, maybe even third right now. We could even be third. If you look at the way that Chelsea have declined, we could even be third right now. And you look at Man United compared to Tottenham. Obviously, you've got Kane and Son, but I think I think Antonio Conte could have got a great deal out of the current set of players. I think he really could have done. He might have signed one or two, maybe one player as well in the January transfer window. So there is no denying that a world-class coach would have got Man United in a better place. But I do think with what Rangnick could do longer term for us, I do think this short-term pain hopefully will turn into longer-term improvement. Still got doubts about the Glazers, the structure, etc. I know John Murtough, a lot of people are happy with the work that he seems to be doing. And by all means, be happy by it. But I'm still waiting to see. I think you've got to wait. I think a football club, when you make changes, you reap the rewards in the longer term. If you look at the way that Liverpool have done it. You look at Manchester City. I remember Man City. I think they got beat by Everton 4-0. I think under Pep, they had some quite big defeats under Pep in the early sort of Pep reign, and Jurgen Klopp as well. I remember it took a long time for those managers to not just get the things right on the pitch, but also for everything to fall into place off the pitch and support those managers. And I'm not saying by any means that Ten Hag shouldn't be held accountable. Of course he should. It's Manchester United. However, you have to realise that Ten Hag's current tenure as manager, or past tenure now, it's over. I think people will be quite happy about that because we've been pretty poor. And I do think, although it's not been great, I do think in the longer term, I'm hoping that we will improve from this. And that's why I'm sort of happy to see these backroom staff leave. I think it's time for those backroom staff to leave. I was always a bit questionable about Chris Armas from the MLS. I wasn't too keen on that at all. And all these previous coaches as well, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I haven't been the biggest fan of many Manchester United managers or coaches since Sir Alex left. Really, I don't think we've developed many players at all, to be totally honest with you. But I think that also comes from the top. The top down. We haven't recruited the right players. We've had a mismatch of players. We haven't recruited into an identity and a system. And I hope we're going to do that under Ten Hag. So that's just the little update today. We're going to try and make these like 15 minutes long. As I said, over the summer we're bringing a lot of transfer news. So there'll be hopefully different types of shows on this channel. I'm also going to try and improve some sort of visual elements as well and make it better if I can. I'm just in the early stages at the moment, just getting used to all the tech and stuff. Although I am young, it's not easy to get used to everything straight away. So the types of shows we're going to have, what I'm going to do is when I produce a thread or some analysis, I may jump onto YouTube and
have maybe a split screen and just maybe talk through the thread, talk through the analysis, so people can understand it as well. Because sometimes when people read analysis on Twitter, etc., and sometimes when I read analysis, you sometimes don't fully see where the person's coming from, or you might not understand one or two bits and bobs. People write in different ways, maybe manner of phrase that people don't understand. So I'm going to try and come on here and explain those as well through. That might help. I think that would be a good idea. As I said, sort of transfer news, daily updates, just keeping people on top of things. I think that would be a great idea. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it again. I'm certainly enjoying doing these videos. As I said, we're going to be bringing a load more content through. Yeah, and again, thanks a lot for all your support. And I'll see you soon. So please like, please subscribe, please share the video around if you enjoy, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.